This week we start making mountains out of molehills on the Cumberland and Ohio Valley Railroad. Welcome back, everybody, to my second episode. Glad to have you here. I had mentioned on the last vlog that the town of Graves here would be my starting point as far as scenery goes. And I did do just a little bit of work on the lumber mill. I got 4 pike stuff loading dock kits and have put them together for this lumber shed. Hasn't been painted, hadn't been weathered, no details, but the actual kit is built and in place. But that was just sort of a little extra project just to do some actual modeling work. But the bulk of the work this week has been in this area down here. And this is still technically part of Graves. So this is actually going to be where I start and then work my way past the coal tipple down toward the lumber mill. So as you can see, this is going to be a very mountainous area. What I did here was begin with creating a road, and I laid out a paper template with just some strips of paper cut to the width of the road, taped them at angles, and then traced that off on a sheet of birch plywood, 1/8 inch birch plywood, and used 2x4s for risers to elevate the roadway. This area is a little bit unusual in that behind this pink foam right here is one of the staging yards, and I needed to be able to get back into it, so I'll show you a little visual trick that I did. Basically, I didn't want to have any sort of a hidden panel or a removable top to get to the tracks if I need to for maintenance or some sort of a derailment. So what I did was just build this profile board out of pink foam from Home Depot, and the plan is here that the backdrop is going to create a sense that this void is not there, that in other words the hillside continues right up against the backdrop, and a little forced perspective and careful placement of trees and vegetation should mask the fact that this is open in the back. And that way, if I ever need to get back here, all I have to do is reach behind the pink board and I have access to all of the switches. The camera is back here so I can see what's going on. Sorry for the kind of crazy camera work here, but I'm stretching over the edge to film this. But I think that's actually going to be a very practical plan to have this open so I can get to it. But you know, standing from here, from this vantage point, it certainly looks like that is just a solid ridge, and like I said, the trees will, I think, even mask that more as I've developed the scene. So from that profile board, I then just started hot gluing the cardboard webbing strips for the hard shell. This is by no means finished, but just to get you an idea of where we're headed from here. So this will all be sort of a sheer rock face with some vegetation, and then the lower tracks have a river bank. All of this in here will be water that goes with the river that connects underneath the steel trestle. And that river also goes around over the desk, and then will also be part of the river going under the trestle. So one of the things that I really was excited about this week was the inclusion of this scene right here. This was part of a diorama that I built for an NMRA convention. Not so much to judge for MMR points or anything, but I just entered it just strictly as a modeling project. And I really didn't have a place to fit it because there were several other buildings on this diorama. So I really bit the bullet and took a jigsaw, and you can see where I cut straight across the foam. Luckily, the bottom level is gator foam, and that really helped make a nice clean cut all the way through there, very rigid. But you can see I kind of had to add a little bit of height to my 2x4s there to make sure the road is nice and level with the existing diorama. And then this area right here will be filled in with cardboard strips to connect it all together. But it's such a nice building. It's a South River Model Works kit, and it really is one of my favorites. And I think the scenery behind it, once all the trees are in, is really going to, with a dirt road curving through there, the composition of this scene I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be very photogenic, and it's one of these kind of hidden gems that's tucked kind of in the back here, so you really have to kind of look for it to really appreciate it. But anyway, that's how that's sort of shaping up. And then the other project I did this week was started on the tunnels. And you'll see I did some ballasting work already, because once this is covered with cardboard webbing, it's going to be next to impossible to ballast. So I made the walls out of just masonite hardboard, and the camera here is going in further than your head can reach. So I only did the masonite strips long enough so that they disappear beyond your line of sight. From any place in the room you stand, that's as much as you're going to see there. So a little bit of weathering on them, and gray paint, some weather. I think that it looks fine for a tunnel liner. And it will come down, and there'll be a road that actually goes under the trestle. Probably going to be like a little plate girder thing in the wooden trestle here, and then it'll come down the banks. And this area is actually going to have sort of a whitewater area that'll be multi-tiered with some rapids and some rocks, and I think it'll be very nice when it's finished also. So still got a lot to do with the cardboard webbing, but it is getting close to plaster cloth, and that probably will be the next vlog, is starting to put some plaster cloth on. And I may even do it as a tutorial and actually demonstrate putting that on, and future ones will do rock casting and some other things as well that may be of interest. On the other side here are twin tunnel entrances. The one that's going off to the right goes to the Portsmouth, Ohio staging. The ones that go to the left, that's actually a track that's strictly to allow continuous running when we're just, we have an open house, or we have just the guys come over just to bring their own equipment and we just have a fun run kind of a day. But in normal operating sessions, that left entrance is not used at all. It's strictly the one on the right. And then this little area up here at the top will have some company houses, a rural church, and then there's one area I'm not quite totally sure what I'm going to do with it yet. There's a couple of possibilities. One is the mine here could have a truck dump that would come off of this road, have like a little gravel area, and a truck dump that has a conveyor that goes up to this back part of the tipple there. That's one possibility. The other one is at the very top of the hill to have some sort of a mine house, little dump house up there, and a conveyor that comes down toward the tipple and would actually cross over the road. I've seen many prototype pictures that have conveyors that went over these sort of dirt back road kind of things, and either one I think would make a nice scene. It's really probably going to really be determined by the geometry of the position of the conveyor, how it's going to fit into the scene. It may actually work better to do the truck dump, but I think either one of them would be fine. And as you can see here, there'll be several timber cribbing walls that will help separate the different layers and give a little visual interest versus everything just being flat. And it'll follow that pink profile board down to the very end where the lumber stacks are, and then at that point it's just all backdrop and no foreground scenery that's elevated at all, just because of space limitations. Now on the front here, this front face will also be rock castings and shear wall going down to the lower tracks all through here. So there'll be a little bit of rock work on the bottom, but the top here will be strictly backdrop. So that's where we are so far. And next time I visit with you, we'll see if we can start actually slinging some plaster and getting messy and start to really get a final feel for the lay of the land in this area. But I appreciate your time and your visit today. If you haven't done so, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Click the box down below. Click the bell for notifications. And if you would, give me a thumb up on the content. And I tell you, I really enjoy reading your comments. I try to reply to all of them, even if it's just a thanks. So if you got a second, I'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts and where we're headed from here. But I appreciate you tuning in. Hope you have a great week. Stay well, everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody.